Well, we are back. Speaking Breakdown. Listen, gang, it's been a little while, so I'm sorry, but I wanted to really work on this next speaker breakdown because in this one, we're actually going to break down Apple's big keynote at WWDC. Ever since Steve Jobs came out, everyone was always about like, oh, Steve Jobs was such a great presenter. Really, was he? I mean, did have any of you sat down, with a couple of beers to watch Steve Jobs keynotes? Probably not. You've probably seen excerpts, beautiful little moments, right? You've probably read analysis and breakdowns of why he's such a good speaker, and he is better than average in terms of like corporate communication. The thing is, but now Apple is kind of trying to be very interesting and dynamic and cool, but they're falling into the trap of the business world and trying to be so generic that it's sort of hard to listen to. For all the glitz and glam that they did, probably most of you, if you watch the full keynote, you probably just started skipping, or like, I'm just going to use a synopsis. There's got to be someone who broke this down for me instead, because it's hard to listen to because it's so not real. So humbly, let me see if we can make Apple's WWDC keynote a little bit better. But let's start off with Mr. Tim Cook himself doing the opening remarks. It looks like it's a stand-up comedy show. Do you know what I mean? I feel like it's going to be... Oh, that's cute.
Welcome to WWDC. It's wonderful to see so many familiar faces with us today.
Okay, so I'm going to give you a little strategy here that when you say, obviously it's virtual, right? But we do this all the time. We say, oh, it's so good to see all of you, so many familiar faces. Mr. Cook, what would have happened if you shouted out some random people who were virtually there? Because this was a live virtual event. There were people there. They might have had little icons, but I'm sure you could have had the name of like 3 or 4 people as they're coming in or as they're cheering. So and so from TechCrunch. Oh, Stephen, how are you? Where are you in the world right now? These little moments could have actually made that real. And it's supposed to be fun, isn't it? Aren't you supposed to be fun at the beginning? Right? I know and by the way, just so you all know, every single one of these people memorized their lines word for word, and they tried to memorize it in a way that sounded natural, but you're going to see that most of it sounded memorized. But if you just shouted out a few people, Mr. Cook, done. That probably would have had a lot of fun too. And there's a great, I guess, personality. He's an ad person named Terry O'Reilly. And he talked about, in 20, 30 years of the ad business, really good pitches. There should be no definitive line between socializing and the presentation and pitch itself. It should flow between each other. And this would have been a great way for you to flow.
We're excited to share our latest technologies with you and with the incredible community of millions of Apple developers around the world.
I mean, that's fine. I mean, that's fine. Notice he's going to be like this so much. Talk, 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 talk. Talk, 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 talk. Talk, talk, talk. Tim Cook, this is some hacky public speaking expert telling you that this looks normal. This just makes you look nervous, bro. For real. Call me.
Your creativity and groundbreaking apps continue to
See what I
deliver
mean?
new and meaningful ways to enrich people's lives. We applaud the extraordinary work you've been able to do throughout this challenging time.
For example, this is one of the other running themes. Because you've memorized word for word and you've memorized very generally, we have forgotten, Mr. Cook, how people actually process information. And here's the thing. Most of us do not process statements. We promise images and anecdotes because anecdotes create images. So we are marveled at all the obstacles you have managed to overcome, and then throw one out. Listen up and shout them out. You don't think that person's going to talk about your Apple keynote for the rest of the month, for the rest of the year? How about that for a little extra promotion, a little oomph? Also, here's a little thing for all this stuff, Mr. Cook. I mean, it's not that it's bad. It's obviously fake. Like, you obviously look nervous, and I know you're not a speaker. But here's how you practice. Most people will tell you to whatever is your starting position, and most people tell you to start with this kind of stuff, these kind of weird positions that we never do when we're just talking. Start with a hand open position. So practice doing this instead of this for the majority of the time. And here's what's going to happen. Very quickly, within probably 10 or 20 seconds, you won't be able to stay still. And you're going to start doing these kind of things. And the secret to looking natural is not doing one thing and then elaborating. It is diversity, sir. Because if we were just talking normally, we would be randomly moving every 2 to 3 seconds. That's for you. That's for free, Tim Cook. How do you like that? For free.
Last year's WWDC was our most inclusive and most watched developer conference ever, with nearly 25 million viewers. It was exciting.
Just a quick note here. Whenever you list a number, compare it to a different number. With over 25 million viewers, that's this more than the year before. That's more people than watched the World Cup or the Super Bowl. Or so I don't know if those numbers are true or not. But if you give a number like 25 million viewers, no, that doesn't mean anything unless you compare it with another number. Otherwise, it's just lip service. You see, it didn't impact anything. No one cared.
To have so many people join us and to see the impact it had on new Apple developers as we broadened our audience, welcoming more people from more places around the world.
What a great place for an anecdote or example. So-and-so from this place actually built this app. Shout these people out if you're so impressed or you really want to support them. I guarantee you, even though you're taking 50% of the money, if you shouted them out, they would still be on your side. They wouldn't see you as like the necessary evil. And let's be real. I mean, we've all seen the news.
We've continued to look for ways to help cultivate the next generation of developers with an emphasis on those underrepresented in technology. We hope.
So, Tim, what would have happened if, instead of just saying we're going to represent people understanding technology, and then you're going to talk about what you're probably going to talk about, like some tech camp or some initiatives you did, throw out little rhetorical questions that allude to what you're doing. So let's go back, and I'll give you an example here, okay? So let's go back. So what if the next Angry Birds came from a place that didn't have internet 5 years ago? Is the next game-changing app, the next Uber, the next Airbnb, going to come from a place that's in the third world? We want to answer those questions. And that's why,
with an emphasis on those underrepresented in technology.
Hey now, that was a tag team, me and Tim Cook.
We host entrepreneur camps for Black and female developers to foster the talents of future industry leaders.
So what would happen all of a sudden if in Detroit, we made sure that every underage school had a free programming class that was offered every single day after schools? Well, we did it. Throw in these anecdotes. Remember, Mr. Cook, I need you to listen to me here. I need everyone to listen to me here, not just Tim Cook. An anecdote is not evidence. An anecdote is not evidence, but it is more convincing than evidence. If evidence convinced people, if statements convince people, then there would be no debate about diseases, and everyone would trust lawyers. Take that and fold it up in your pocket. Use it for later. And we're back with Mr. Cook. Let's see what else he says.
Our developer academies, including the newest in Detroit, prepare the coders of tomorrow with valuable tools and training.
For example?
And Learn to Code offers an amazing curriculum for people to develop new skills and learn Swift.
To do what? And listen, I know you're talking to developers, but let's be really honest here. everyone is going to be trying to take things out of what you were saying, Mr. Cook. You know, it's almost like you're the head of the Fed, you know, when the Fed said like every single word needs to be judged. And I know that's why you're so rehearsed. But if you threw out these little anecdotes, that's what's going to get clipped on the papers. Do you know what I mean? The positive impacts in a real way, because no one's going to clip any of this.
We are committed to being a force for change as we seek to make the world a better place, full of opportunity for all of us.
Do you know that this reminds me of? You got to be careful. And I tell this to my students all the time, is be wary of becoming the motivational speaker. Go on Silicon Valley. Go watch Silicon Valley. Okay. And there's this great, you can look it up on YouTube. There's a great montage where it's all these developers and going, and we're going to change the world by making the world a better place and making the world a better place, making the world a better place. We're going to change the world, make it a better place. And then through integrated software design solutions, through SaaS engineering, database management. Like it's all these like platitudes that when you hear them, you may be right.
Happen will revolutionize location-based mobile news aggregation as you know it.
We're making the world a better place through Paxos algorithms for consensus protocols.
And we're making the world a better place through software-defined data centers for cloud computing.
A better place through canonical data models to communicate between endpoints.
A better place through scalable, fault-tolerant distributed databases with ACID transactions.
But it's no one cares, and it goes no. And it was like waiting for actual information, because it's cheesy and it's just a general statement that everyone says. Everyone's the motivational speaker.
This year, we're bringing you another online experience featuring over 200 in-depth sessions, one-to-one labs with Apple engineers, and so much more.
One-to-one labs with Apple engineers probably is what made people interested. You should have said, instead of those three things, we're bringing in more things, one-on-ones, and so much more. You should have just given 3 examples and then so much more.
We'll provide the tools you need to continue creating the world's most innovative apps.
Like, for example, it would be so cool if you alluded to a tool. Do you know what I mean? Like just something, even like, so you're not saying the tool itself, but what the tool allows you to do. That would get people really, okay, where? That gets people interested in what's coming next. Because right now, everyone's patiently waiting for you to finish, including yourself. Like you're probably bored by this conversation too, for real information to happen.
Apps that inspire us in new ways every day. And just like last year's WWDC,
motivational speaker,
this entire conference will be made available for free. We've got a lot of exciting news and breakthrough innovations to share with you today. So let's get started by turning it over to Craig to tell us what's new in iOS.
This is a running theme, I think, that we're going to see. It's like, and now I'm going to turn it over to so-and-so who's going to tell you about this. And they're like, hi, I'm so-and-so, and I'm so excited to tell you about this thing. It's such a harsh, like it's such a forced kind of transition, and it sounds forced. What would happen if you transitioned with rhetorical questions? So instead of saying, I'm going to pass it over to Craig to tell you about some of the great innovations we have with iOS, what would have happened, Mr. Cook, if you would have ended with something like this, where you said something like, so there's all these great things we have in the works, and there's all these great tools we're going to give to you, the developers. But what does this mean for iOS? Craig? And then Craig comes in and answers your question, sir. Whoever Craig is.
Thanks, Tim. All right, let's dive right in.
If that doesn't sound rehearsed, I don't know what does. Oh.
For many of us, our iPhone has become indispensable. And at the heart of iPhone is iOS. iOS powers experiences we've come to rely on.
So one thing you could have done here, Craig, and I think because the video is already getting a little long, I'm going to end this as part 1. But here's the thing. This is a running theme. Empowers us to make experiences that make our lives worth living. Really? 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 Come on, let's be real here. We're on Instagram 90% of the time. or for young, we're on TikTok, or we're just or we're looking at our email, even though we haven't gotten any email, we're just still scrolling through our email. But even if you're right, Craig, let's rewind this for a minute. And let's see what would have happened if you would have added your personal things here.
Thanks, Tim.
So that we know, so that it doesn't sound so rehearsed. Because you sound like someone's like, this is how, hello, fellow young people. Like, that's what you sound like. Because someone wrote this out word for word in a way that sounds natural when you write it, but when you hear it,
iPhone has become indispensable.
if we were all having dinner and you jumped in, people were like, and you started talking like this.
And at the heart of iPhone is iOS. iOS powers experiences we've come to rely on.
People would be like, in their head, they'd be like, why are you talking this way? And then they do this, because it doesn't sound real, and they're just politely waiting. So the other thing here, so we got to get out of that formality, that kind of rehearsed trap. And if you're interested on how to do that, check out my course on Udemy. But when you say, it's okay, listen, Craig, you're like, you want Yvonne, you Yahoo from YouTube, you have no idea the kind of pressure we're under because every word we get is analyzed. Sure. So use this formal and then follow it up with one like just super vanilla dull example from your actual day-to-day. So what is an experience that you've come to depend on for iOS? Like even something as simple as saying, iOS powers experiences we've come to rely on. So knowing that if I'm on my computer and I don't know where my phone is, I won't miss a text message, for me is hugely important. So just, it's nothing, but it shows that it's not just lip service.
And this year, we were inspired to create even more meaningful ways iPhone could help you.
And before we get into all the meaningful ways that Apple can help you, everyone, we're going to end off this episode of Speaker Breakdown for today. And let me just end it by saying this. It's not that what you're doing is wrong or it's bad. It's that what you're doing is what everyone else does. And as a result, no one remembers. And if you don't believe me, just look at how many people have to make like 10-minute summaries, 5-minute summaries. And that's what people watch. Because so much of what you're saying and so much of the value you are trying to offer is lost in the realm of boring. But don't worry, because as I break these things down, I'm going to give you strategies to help end the boring and make what you're saying not only just more interesting, but a little bit exciting. So, team, #EndBoring. Thanks for watching. And I'll be publishing like part 2. I'm going to try and do it weekly for you.